As the Boston Bruins get ready to take on the Anaheim Ducks tonight, it's becoming clear that the grinded out, defensive minded mentality isn't helping them win games.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Thursday, October 23rd. Thank you so much for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen every day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And on this episode, we are going to do our weekly look at the Bruins barometer. Should we be buying? Should we be holding? Or should we be selling on this team based on their recent performance, which includes a 5-game losing streak that they'll hope to break tonight against the Anaheim Ducks? We'll also preview that game later on in the podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. And before we dive in, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. That's on X, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. And you can find me, my hockey thoughts and dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. I am a lifelong Boston Bruins fan, and I have been covering this team and the NHL for various outlets for nearly 20 years now. A quick look at the NHL standings shows us that the Boston Bruins probably are what we thought they would be. A middle-of-the-pack team, maybe fighting for a wild card spot in the Eastern Conference, but also quite possibly finding themselves once again near or at the bottom of the Eastern Conference standings. They have a record of 3-5 through 8 games, 6 points, a .375 point percentage. Only the Ottawa Senators and the Tampa Bay Lightning have fewer points and a worse point percentage. The Ottawa Senators have been hit early by Brady Tkachuk thumb injury that required surgery. They have only 5 points through 7 games with a conference low -11 goal differential. The Tampa Bay Lightning, shocking start for them, 1-3-2 through 6 games, a .333 point percentage, only 4 points. The Bruins are tied with the Buffalo Sabres, the New York Islanders, the Columbus Blue Jackets in terms of points. They're one back of the New York Rangers, Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Philadelphia Flyers, with some of those teams looking to be able to rebound from last season or struggling early on, like in the case of the Maple Leafs, who are outside of the playoff picture. Way too early to be looking at playoff spots, wild card seedings, but it gives you a sense of who is perhaps improved, who's struggling, where the Bruins may fit in. And at the moment, you have surprise teams like the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are 5-2, led by Justin Brazeau, who's got 8 points. The Philadelphia Flyers, winning record so far, 3-2-1. The Montreal Canadiens, Detroit Red Wings, sitting 1-2 in the Atlantic Division. Things are a bit up in the air at the moment. The Eastern Conference teams have been tossed up and they're landing in weird places, but our Boston Bruins back down near the bottom of the Eastern Conference, and it's not looking as though there's going to be much improvement this year with this team. At the moment, when it comes to the Bruins barometer, and we'll discuss why you should be buying or selling coming up, but right now I'm still in a holding pattern. If you look at their recent schedule, any team around the NHL would have potentially struggled to get points from games against the Lightning, although, like I said, that win against the Bruins is their only win so far this season. But then you had Vegas, Colorado, Utah, and then the Florida Panthers. Those are 5 pretty tough games on the surface, right? Yeah, you can look at Tampa struggling so far, their only win. But Utah is kind of a young up-and-coming team, not as established as Vegas and Colorado. And then, of course, Florida is the 2-time defending champions. For the Bruins to have lost all 5 of those games in regulation without a point is pretty disappointing and potentially devastating to their long-term hopes this season. But at the same time, they only lost 4 of those games by 1 goal. The Lightning, Vegas, Utah, Florida, all 1-goal games. And the Bruins should have at least gotten 1 point from that Florida game if it were not for that incredibly unlucky bounce that they suffered very late in the game. Puck going off the post, off Andrew Peeke, and then into the back of the net. So there is some reason for encouragement here when it comes to the Bruins' performance to date. -2 goal differential. Florida's worse. Tampa's worse. Ottawa's worse. They're just in a string here of a tough schedule. And if they had been able to push a couple of those games even to overtime, even if they had lost those, they still would have got a couple extra points and would be more level with the Florida Panthers in terms of points and point percentage. The Bruins have scored 24 goals so far this season, which ranks them 3rd in the Atlantic Division, although Toronto, same amount of goals, 1 fewer game played. -1 goal differential. There are signs that the Bruins can hang here. Said it before, everydayers will remember last season, there were so many games where they would get down and the opposition would just keep piling it on. And the Bruins would come out on the wrong end of 6-1, 7-1, 8-1 decisions. Now the Bruins, yes, troubling that they get down early in games, but they're able to fight back. And in the case of the Florida game, they were able to tie it in the last minute of regulation before suffering that bad bounce. Marco Sturm is pushing some buttons here early in order to show his team that he means business. He scratched the first line or benched the first line in that game against Colorado, scratched Casey Middlestat. He responded with a pretty good game against Florida. He called out Mason Lohrei. We'll see if he is scratched tonight. If Hampus Lindholm is able to play tonight. They recalled Michael Callahan yesterday because Jordan Harris is injured and on IR. I could very much see Mason Lohrei taking a seat for a game or two in order to get his bearings back. So Marco Sturm pushing the right buttons. But at the end of the day, and we've said this a few times over the last couple of years, the coach, say as the cook, only can create something with the ingredients that he has been given. And there's a real argument to be made that the Bruins are leaving some tasty morsels down in the AHL while serving up some old, moldy, stale options up in the NHL. And we might need to see a reversal of that here sooner than later. For the moment, I'm saying hold on this team. Let's see what happens when they play some teams coming up like Anaheim tonight. Yeah, they have Colorado on the schedule next week, but you got a struggling Ottawa team, a middling Islanders team. The Sabres are actually looking pretty good after that 0-3 start. But there are some more winnable games upcoming 3 games against the Senators in the next 3 weeks. If they can take advantage of those, Sam, Brady, Tkachuk, then that would be encouraging. Coming up here, we're going to discuss some reasons why you should buy this on this team, or you should be in full sell mode. We'll also preview the Ducks game coming up here as the podcast continues. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired. It happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. And that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED, designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it so easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor, 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. The process is fast, simple, and private, all handled by real doctors. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door as well. Visit rugiet.com/lockedonnhl to get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/lockedonnhl. Don't forget to use our code LOCKEDONNHL so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. People love using FanDuel because it gives them so many ways to play. You can build parlays, try player props, even follow the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. And whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today to get started. Put down that $5 bet. If it hits, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. So on the surface, things look not great for the Boston Bruins, but not devastatingly bad either. They've lost 5 in a row, but all of these games have been played against Stanley Cup contenders, playoff hopefuls at the very least, in Utah's case. But Tampa, Florida, Vegas, Colorado are legit powerhouses in the NHL with very real Stanley Cup aspirations. And in only one game was it a lopsided score. So chalk it up to bad scheduling and the Bruins kind of still figuring things out in terms of personnel. I mean, even the other night, I was reminded of the fact that there are so many new faces on the ice and behind the bench. You had Steve Spott drawing up the final push where the Bruins were trying to tie the game there. Very new to the organization and still some learning curves when it comes to hearing from these new voices. Now, a reason why you may be concerned with this team is their underlying numbers. At 5-on-5, where the majority of the game is played, they rank 24th in the NHL when it comes to shot attempt differential on the ice. When the Bruins, through 8 games, 5-on-5, they have recorded 348 shot attempts, and they've allowed 392. When it comes to actual shots on goal, the Bruins rank 21st. So a bit of improvement there. They have a 48.61 shot attempt differential 5-on-5. They've landed 157 shots, and they have allowed 166. They do have a negative goal differential 5-on-5, 14 goals for, 19 goals against, and expected goals so far, they're trailing in that area as well. They're giving up way too many scoring chances. Their scoring chance differential at 5-on-5, they rank 29th in the NHL. And when it comes to high danger opportunities, they rank dead last in the NHL. They have generated only 47 high danger attempts, and they have allowed 76. And this is a team that is meant to be built on defense, meant to be built on being hard to play against, hard to get into those dirty areas. While this team has improved in terms of special teams, their 5-on-5 play leaves a bit to be desired, right? Last year, they were kind of dead last in most major statistical categories. The power play has improved a bit. In fact, right now they rank, 24th, 16.7% success rate. The penalty kill has improved more. They're at 8th, 87.9% success rate. Goals for, this team is actually scoring at a decent clip. They're middle of the pack, averaging 3 goals per game, but they're allowing 3.25 goals per game so far this season. They're also allowing 2 more shots per game on average than they are generating. Now, a big source of improvement so far has been the goaltending, especially Jeremy Swayman. Right now, he's got a save percentage of .903, which is up from last year's mark of below 900 hockey. But he has faltered a bit in a couple of recent games, allowing 6 goals against Vegas, 4 goals against Florida. Otherwise, his starts have been pretty good, and he's likely going to get an opportunity to start here tonight against Anaheim and get things back on track. So, to sum it up, I am still in the middle, but veering more towards selling on this team because, they've been able to keep it close in the recent 5-game losing streak. But I don't know if this team is really built for success this season. They just don't have the offensive weapons. They're not getting enough scoring from secondary sources. David Pastrnak leading the way with 10 points. Pavel Zacha with 8 points. Elias Lindholm with 6. Morgan Geekie only 5 points so far this season. And a bunch of guys stuck on like 2 points, 3 points, 1 point. They just don't have the offensive weapons to be able to ease the load off the defense. And when I reference all these underlying numbers earlier, basically what it means is that the majority of the time the puck is in the Bruin zone. The other team is getting more shot attempts, more shots, more high danger opportunities. So they're taxing the defense, and the forwards who are out there aren't able to help out enough to get the puck to the other end and have sustained time in the offensive zone. And that's what happens when you lean more on grinders than offensively talented players. Yes, those guys could get out there, turn over the puck, lead to some opportunities. But when you have more creative, offensively minded players out there who have speed and skill to make things happen in the offensive zone and even in the neutral zone, you're more likely to be able to generate more shot attempts, shots, high danger chances. There's only so much you can get out of a Mikey Eyssimont playing on the second line. There's only so much you can get from Fraser Minton when he's being put out on a line with Tanner Jeannot or Mikey Eyssimont. Victor Arvidsson was brought in to help add some scoring depth to this team. 0 goals so far through 8 games and only 2 assists. And he's playing second line right wing. That's just not going to cut it. You have Jeffrey VL in there the other night playing on the fourth line, not bringing much in the way of speed or skill. I get he was out there for his size against a physical Florida team, but if you look at the bottom 6, you could argue that 5 of those 6 are fourth-line players in the NHL today. You need some more scoring pop. You have a bunch of guys down in the AHL who are playing very well. Fabian Lysell, Georgi Merkulov, Alex Steves, Matej Blumel. It's worth bringing some of these guys up because if this is indeed a transition year, if you're trying to get by with these grinders out there, it's not really working. They're not winning games. They're not playing or putting up numbers that suggest that they could rebound at some point, or obviously the game the other night, that was bad puck luck. They need more effective shooters in there, and they need some guys who can defend better and get the puck up the ice. Mason Lohrei has been struggling. Yeah, Hampus Lindholm's been injured. We'd like to see what the lineup would look like with their regular 6 on the back end. Could get a chance to see that tonight against the Anaheim Ducks, and that is a game that we will preview here coming up. But right now, I'm not devastated by the Bruins start. I think it's somewhat encouraging that they haven't been blown out of these games. They're showing some fight, but they just don't have the right ingredients to make this as tasty as possible. And some AHL seasoning should be called up in order to provide that. Anyways, we'll preview that Ducks game here coming up as the podcast continues. The Bruins are playing a home game tonight, and nothing beats being in the arena for those first few games of the season. Let's be real, though. Getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Gametime comes in. The app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I used Gametime to grab seats for a Blue Jays game earlier this fall. Couldn't have been simpler. No surprise fees. I knew exactly what to expect when I got to the stadium because of their in-app seat view feature. You can find NHL tickets for under $25. Take the guesswork out of buying those tickets with Gametime. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go with Gametime. Bruins Ducks tonight at TD Garden. It is a special one. Hockey fights cancer night. I love the moment when they pause the game. Everybody raises their signs for who they are fighting for. Just a beautiful moment each and every year, and looking forward to that tonight. Now, the Bruins come in losers of 5 in a row. The Ducks actually are 3-2-1. They're coming off a win over the Nashville Predators, and they've got a pretty good goalie in net on their side of the ice in Lucas Dostal, who's 2-2-1 with a 2.82 goals against average and a .904 save percentage. He did start the other night against Nashville. They might go to Peter Mrazek. He's somehow 1-0 with a .602 goals against average and a .739 save percentage. But that's hockey sometimes. This is the first of 2 meetings between these two teams. The Bruins will be in Anaheim just in a few weeks, taking on the Ducks on the 19th. Now, of November, I should say. The Ducks are led in scoring by Leo Carlsson, a very talented young player who's got that Selke look in his eyes, future contender. He's got 7 points. Mason McTavish, Troy Terry, Chris Kreider, although I feel like he might be injured. Rookie Beckett Seneke, Cutter Gauthier also chipping in Frank Vetrano, former Bruin, 0 points so far through 6 games. Would not shock me to see him break through here in a game against his old team. On the back end, they've got some talented young guys like Owen Zellweger, Jackson Lacombe, Pavel Mintyukov to go along with bangers in Radko Gudas and Jacob Trouba. When it comes to the power play, the Anaheim Ducks rank 16th with a 20% success rate. Their penalty kill is 18th, 78.6. So the Bruins need to take advantage there, stay disciplined, score on the power play where they rank only 24th. They could use a bit of a solid game there on the power play. Still kind of figuring things out under Steve Spott's tutelage. The Bruins penalty kill, though, is pretty good. 8th ranked, 87.9%. Faceoffs were a factor in the game against Florida, with Middlestat winning that big one in overtime or late in the third period to seemingly help the Bruins get it to overtime before that unfortunate game winner. The Bruins are the second best team in the NHL in faceoffs. Ducks are 19th. Ducks have the 10th ranked offense. They are scoring 3.17 goals per game. The Bruins are 3.00, 15th. Ducks are allowing 3.33 goals per game, and the Bruins are allowing 3.25. So pretty close there. Bruins are 20th, Ducks 21st. This is a winnable game for the Boston Bruins. The Ducks are much improved over last season. They're not necessarily still in the same class as the San Jose Sharks or the Chicago Blackhawks are a winning team at the moment, 571. The Ducks currently with a 583 point percentage, which puts them 17th in the NHL, 3-2-1 record, -1 goal differential. So it's not as if they are, dominating. They've only beaten a few teams, Pittsburgh, San Jose, Nashville, so not really powerhouses. The Bruins have an opportunity here to make a statement on home ice. We can excuse that 5-game losing streak because it came against some much better teams, but it's time to win the winnable ones, and this is that for the Boston Bruins. You're playing on home ice against an upstart team like Anaheim, who, they are young, they're improved, they're speedy. It's not going to be an easy out, but these are the games you have to win if you want to stay in the mix going forward this season. All right, that's it for today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, my friends. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Happy Hockey Fights Cancer Night. Happy birthday to friend of the show, Katie Bogan. Please do take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Check out the Locked On NHL Game Night podcast next, which is a look at all the league's action every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. You can find it on the Locked On NHL podcast feed and on YouTube. Please do subscribe to Locked On Boston Bruins on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. We'll be back tomorrow to recap tonight's game, preview the weekend's action, bring you all the latest on the black and gold.